Hey guys, good evening. Guys, if you are able to see my screen, just type S in the chat box so that we can get started. Great. Thanks for the confirmation, guys. So today we are going to continue with the topic that is modifiers. Yesterday we started modifiers topic, and as part of the modifiers, I explained you there are two types of modifiers, that is access modifiers and non-access modifiers. Coming to the access modifiers, I completed what is public, what is private, and also I completed one object-oriented concept known as encapsulation concept. Okay, as part of this private access modifier and public combination, I explained you one object oriented concept known as encapsulation in the yesterday session. So today guys, today what I'm going to do now is I'm going to explain the remaining two access modifiers. If time permits, I'll also go with the non-access modifiers. So let's go with the next access modifiers, that is protected and default. So first I'll go with the default. Okay, default access modifier. Okay, I'll go with the default access modifier. Public, private is completed. Then now I'm going with the default. So let me write down here again. Modifiers in Java can be categorized into, at a high level, into which types, guys? Everyone type in the chat box. What are the two types, two categories? First one is, and second one is. First one is what? Access modifiers. And second one is non-access modifiers. What are modifiers are already covered in the yesterday session. Okay, they modify the original behavior of the variables, methods, and classes when specified before them, are known as modifiers. The modifiers which modify the access behavior of these variables, methods, default access behavior of the variables, methods, and classes are called as access modifiers. Under access modifiers, we have different variety of access modifiers. 1, 2, 3, and 4, let's say. The first one is public. And public, you can specify the public before a variable. You can specify public before a variable. You can also specify the public before a method. You can also specify the public before a method. And also, you can specify the public before a class also. Okay, before a class also, you can specify the public access modifier. Coming to the second variety, that is private. The second variety is private access modifier, and this private can be specified only before a variable and a method. It cannot be specified before a class. If you specify private modifier before a class, what will happen, guys? Tell me. What will happen if you specify the private access modifier before a class? Anyone remember from yesterday's session?
Illegal error.
Yeah, illegal modifier error. Okay, will come. Illegal modifier error will come if you specify the private access modifier before a class. You'll get illegal modifier. Everyone type in chat box. If you specify private, can only be specified before variable and method. If you specify the private before a class, which is not allowed, if you forcibly try to provide private before a class, you will get illegal modifier kind of compiler error you will get. And next one is default. Next one is default, guys. Okay, next one is default. Default can be specified before a variable and can be specified before a method and can be specified before a class also. And meanwhile, I'll launch it. Before a class also, you can specify the default modifier. And the final one is the protected. The final one is the protected access modifier. And this protected access modifier can be specified only before a variable and method. You cannot specify this similar to private. You cannot specify protected before a class. If you provide protected before a class, you will get illegal modifier error. So variables and methods, you can specify the protected access modifier. Now coming here, I'll expand this project. Expand this project. And here, if you can see here, modifiers topic is there. Under that access modifiers, we completed public and private already. I'm going to cover one more thing. That is public, private. And the next one is dot default. I'll say default. You cannot give default here. Default modifier, I'll say default modifier. Default modifier I'll mention, otherwise, okay. Yeah, I'll tell you how to know whether it is default modifier. I'll tell you. Here, right click, create a new class. So just name this class with some random name. Let's say, otherwise inside this, I'll create one package, guys. Okay, sub package with the name .1, and I'll create one more package. Let's say .2. Inside the one, I'll create a new. Inside the one, I'll create a new class. I'll just name this class as some random name. You can give any name. Let's say car class I'll give. Click on finish. By default, Eclipse ID will add which modifier before this class? Which modifier is being provided by default? By this Eclipse ID, when you create a class, public, right? Public is being specified. What if I provide in place of public, if I provide private, is it possible? Is it possible to provide private here before the class? No. What error is coming? What error is coming? Compiler error saying illegal modifier is coming, right? Illegal modifier error is coming. Compiler error is coming. Now, what if I don't specify any modifier? What if I don't specify any modifier? We call that as a default modifier. Is that clear now? Is that clear? If you don't specify any modifier here, okay, if you don't specify any modifier here, okay, that becomes a default modifier. Can you specify default modifier before a class? Yes. If you don't specify any modifier, there is a default modifier. This car class is now specified with default modifier indirectly. Okay. So here I showed in the diagram, right? Default modifier can be specified before variables, methods, and classes. If you don't specify public, private, protected, right, it's nothing but default only. Okay, that's what you have to understand. So it's a default modifier. If you don't specify any modifier before the class, it becomes a default modifier. Inside this, I'll create some variables and methods. Let's say I'll create some variable like string color is equal to gray. Okay, I'm giving gray color. And then public, instead of public, right, I'll give void. I'm not specifying any modifier. Did I specify any modifier before this particular variable? Did I specify any modifier like public or something like that? Did I specify? Guys, did I specify any modifier before this variable? No. Here same thing. Void start car, I'll say. Void start car. Okay, you don't have to specify any modifier, guys. If you don't specify a modifier before the class, before a global variable, before a method, all this will become default modifier. Okay. Yeah. Coming to this start car, here I'll write down system.out.println. System.out.println car started, I'll say. One sample variable, one sample method, and one sample class. Inside the class, one sample variable and method I created. All this variable, method, and class are specified with which modifier? Tell me, guys, which modifier is specified here? For this class, variable, and method, which modifier is specified? default modifier. Default, you don't have to type default here. Okay, don't type default here. Okay, even though there is a keyword, it's not required. Okay, even though there is a keyword like default here, don't type default here. Okay, if you don't specify, it's automatically default. Okay, it's automatically default. So this is default modifier. Now, if I create a class, so I'll tell you about the default modifier, how it works and how it is different from public, private, etc. I'm going to explain now. So here, I'm going to write default modifier. Default modifier when specified, default modifier when specified, when accessed within the package will act like public. Okay, default modifier specified variable, class, or method when you are trying to access from the within the package, they will act like public. And the same default access modifier specified class, variable, or method if you are trying to access outside the package. If you are trying to access the default specified modifier specified class, variable, or method outside the package, it will act like private. Everyone try to understand this. Within the package, if you are trying to access this default modifier specified class, variable, and method within the package from another class within the same package, it will act like public. They will act like public access modifier. Okay, by default will act like public. But if you are trying to access the same default specified variable, method, or class outside the package from a class which is outside the package, if you are trying to access all this default specified variable, method, and classes will act like private members. Got it, guys? So default within package will act like what? Default modifier within package will act like what? Everyone type in the chat box. Default within the package will act like public. Default outside the package will act like private. It will act like private. I'm going to prove you that. So for example, car class is in which package, guys? Car class is in which package? One package. Here you can see clearly some parent packages .1. Okay. Now inside the same package, if I create another class inside the same package where car class is available, I'll create a class known as demo class with main method. Now, can I access this class, variable, and method within the package? Yes or no? Can I create an object for this class and using the object reference, can I access this variable and method? Tell me, guys, within the package. Yes or no? Why yes? Why it is yes, guys? Tell me. Why you will be able to access the class, variable, and method from another class within the same package? Because default modifier specified class or variable or method will act like public. Will act like yes. Within the package, they will act like public. So that's the reason if you try to create an object for the car class, you will not get any error here. Okay, you can easily access because here class is specified with default modifier. If no modifier is specified, that is default modifier, and it acts like public here. Okay, you see, I'm not getting any error. Using the object reference, you see system.out.println, system.out.println. Using the object reference, I can access color. You see, any error is coming? No, because this default modifier specified variable is acting like a public within the package. System.out, other one is car.start car. You see, I'm able to access. Am I getting any errors here? No, because all these variable, method, and classes which are specified with default modifier, there is no modifier, are acting like public. They will act like public. Okay, default is public within the package. Default will act like public within the package. So you see, the ray got printed and the car got started. Okay, clearly we can see that. Now, in the another package, here in another package, I'm going to create a class case. Okay, I'll just name this class as some sample class. So this class and car class belong to a different package now. With main method, I'll create. With main method, I'm going to create, guys. Okay. Now, what I'm going to do here is within this main method, I'm going to create an object for the car class. Car is equal to new car. Like this, I'm going to create an object for the car class, guys. I'm going to create an object for the car class. Am I able to access car class over the mouse? You may think that I have to import it. You may think that I have to import this class from this package. Let's try to import manually. Let's try to import the package name. You just give the entire package name in which the car class is available. Say dot car. Are you able to access here? Put a semicolon. Are you able to access this car class? Are you able to import this car class from this particular package? No, that is not possible. Why? Outside the package, the car class, which is specified with default modifier, will act like public. There is no way there is no way that you can use this car class. Or neither, if you are unable to access this, create an object for the car class, can you access this variables and methods of this car class? They are not possible, okay? All the variables, what if I make this public? What if I make this public? Let's assume that for a while I'll make this public and you can access the car class here. After importing this car class from that particular package, I can default modifier. After importing, I can access, because now I made the class as public. So I just want to prove you that these are the default modifier specified variables and methods. Outside the package, they will act like private, guys. System.out.println. Can I say car.color? Error will come. You see, error is already coming. Okay, you cannot access it because color variable is acting like private here. Similarly, car.start car. You cannot access this, guys. Okay, you cannot. You will get an error here because this variable, class, variable, and method are acting like. Okay, all these are not possible, guys. All these are not possible. The reason behind that is default modifier specified classes, variables, and methods outside the package cannot be accessed because they will act like private. Outside the package, they will act like private. Everyone clear with this concept of default modifier? Within the package, default modifier specified class, variables, and methods will act like classes, variables, and methods will act like public. Whereas outside the package, default modifier specified class, variable, and method will act like private. So you cannot access them no matter what. Okay. Only within the package they can be accessed because they will act like public, but outside the package, from another class outside the package, if you try to access the default modifier specific class, variables, and methods, you cannot access no matter what you do. Okay, this is what is a default modifier. If everyone is clear, just type C in the chat box. If everyone is clear with this default modifier, just type C in the chat box, guys, so that I can go with the next modifier. Or any doubts are there, you can ask me right away. If you have any doubts, you can ask me right away, guys.
So one thing.
Yes.
So
Yes, Ram, tell me.
Suppose if you create two packages, like package 1 and package 2 under the same project.
Yes. Okay.
So is there any can we use the default modifier within that same project, or like it is restricted to only one package?
Default modifier will act like public within the package. Outside the package, it will act like private.
Like even though if it is in same project.
Yes. This package is also within the same package only, right? Project only, right?
Okay.
In the one package, two package. Within the one package, you are able to access. Within the two package, you are unable to access because the default modifier specified class, variable, and method are acting like private here. That's why you are getting all the errors here.
Yes.
This is within the package only, within the project only, right? But different packages. Clear? Yeah.
Hello.
Yes, Rakesh.
Using encapsulation, we can use this default modifier.
Yeah, you can use that. You can use that.
Okay.
That encapsulation is a different concept altogether. You can use that.
Okay, using getter setter.
Yeah, private means encapsulation is a object-oriented concept that you can apply anywhere for the private things. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Fine. So hope everyone is clear with the default access modifier. Any other confusions you guys have? Within the project only, I'm telling you, they belong to the different packages. The default access modifier specified variables, classes, and methods will act like private. Okay, outside the package. Within the package, it will act like public. Okay. Now let's move on to the next modifier. That is protected modifier. Protected modifier. Sorry, I have to create a package first of all. Let me create a package here. Right click new package, sub package I'll create. Dot access dot protected modifier. Okay. So in the protected modifier also I'll create two packages. I'll just name one package as .1, another package as .2. The reason I am creating so many packages is that tomorrow, if you see this particular code in the GitHub repo, right, you can go to the respective topics easily and find the required code. That's the reason I'm creating so many sub packages. Okay. So create a new class. So before I create something inside this and all, so coming to the default modifier, everyone understood what is default modifier, right? Everyone understood what is default modifier, right? Coming to the next modifier, that is the protected modifier. What is the next modifier we have? Protected modifier. Everyone type this in the chat box. Protected modifier. Protected modifier. So protected modifier is similar to the default modifier only. Okay, that is within the package. Within package, protected will act like public. Outside the package, protected modifier members will act like what? Outside package, protected will act like what? Private only. Private only. Then what is the difference between default and protected? There should be some difference, right? There should be some difference no matter what. Even though within the package public, outside the package private, for both the default and protected, the same concept is there, but there should be some difference. That is private except for what? Except for child classes outside the package. That means only for the normal classes outside the package it will act like private. For the child classes of the class where protected modifier is specified, right? Those members can be accessed here in the child classes. If that particular class outside the package is not a child class, then it will be by default private. Except for child classes, it is private. But here for all the classes, whether it is child class or non-child class, it will be private. It will be private for all the classes. Here, all classes, it's private. Whereas here, private for all the classes except for child classes. Except for child classes, it's not private, guys. Okay, simple things. Outside the package, for child classes, it's not private. For remaining all classes, it's private. Able to understand the difference, guys? Everyone type in the chat box. What is the major difference between the default modifier and protected modifier? It's private for all classes except for child classes outside package. Protected modifier is private for all the classes except for child classes which are outside the package.
So one question,
Yeah.
you said that except for child classes, that
Yeah.
means if we extend the child, like
Yeah.
for example, if there is a car class is a child class. So if we extend the car class, then that's gonna be automatically the child class, right?
Yes, correct, right.
Okay, whatever
For
we
example,
extend the class, whichever
the class containing this protected modifier specified members, they have to extend. Then those can be accessed there. Okay, I'm showing you practically. You will see that. Okay. For example, here I create a car class. Okay, the same car class. Click on finish. First time within the package, there is no difference. They will act like public only, right? But before a class, can I provide protected modifier? First of all, tell me, before a class, can I specify protected modifier? Yes or no? The answer is no. Here public is there. If I provide private, it will say illegal modifier that you already know. And if I don't provide any modifier, it will accept because default modifier I can provide. But if I write protected, then what is happening? Again, illegal modifier is coming. Again, illegal modifier is coming. Clear, everyone? For private and protected modifiers cannot be specified before a class. Only the public and default can be specified. So I'll make it public only for now, okay? Because protected modifier cannot be specified before a class means it is by default, compiler error is coming if you specify the protected modifier before a class or private modifier before a class, you will get compiler error. Hence I am putting public only, guys. Hence I am putting public only. Okay, hence I am putting public only. Fine. Now, excuse me. Okay. Now, if I create a variable, yes, if I create a variable and method inside this car class with protected modifier, protected string, company is equal to BMW. Okay, let's write like this, for example. And I'll create a sample method also, that is protected void start car. And here I'll write on system.out.println car started. Like this, some sample variables and methods specified with protected modifier I created inside the car class. For the class, you cannot specify protected because you will get illegal modifier, guys. Okay. For variables and methods, you can provide protected modifier. Okay. Now guys, tell me, within the package, this protected modifier specified variable and methods can be accessed or not within the package from another class within the same package. You see, I'm creating another class within the same one package. Can I access that? Demo, main method. Can I access that? Protected. Can I access? Why? Because protected modifier specified variables and methods will act like what within the package? Within the package, it will act like what? Those variables and methods will act like what? Public. That's the reason. Okay. So already class is public only because I cannot specify protected. I kept it public only. I can easily create an object here. Car is equal to new car. Car is equal to new car. Okay, you see, no issues at all. Now system.out.println car.company. You see, I can access without any problem because protected modifier specified variables and methods will act like public here. Similarly, car.start car. You see, I can access. I can run this code and it will work fine. Obviously, it will work because protected will act like protected that can be specified before variables and methods will act like public within the package in another class, but within the same package, it will act like public. Okay, it will act like public. Now, if I remove this, delete this, remove this, and if I go and create another class here, known as sample class here, you can give the same name also, demo also you can give, no problem, but I'm just giving a different name with main method I'll try to create. Now, try to access this. This sample and car belongs to same package or different package? Same package or different package? Tell me, guys. Now they belong to the different package. When they belong to the different package, anyhow, simple thing is that the class is public only, but only thing is that you are you have to import this particular class from a different package. Okay, otherwise you cannot use that. So first I have to write here, I have to write import. Okay, when I say car, it's public class only. Okay, public type only. Class is of public type, but you can create an object for the car class. Okay, hold the mouse and you can simply import it. You see, import car from protected modifier .1. You can automatically get this statement. That's okay, or you can manually also type it. Only thing is that you have to import this car class to create an object or access the car class. Okay, but can you access this protected modifier specified variables and methods outside the package? Outside the package, can you access? No, right? By default, outside the package, it will act like private because it will act like private here. System.out.println car.company. You see, it's not coming. Error is coming. Here, if I say car.start car, you will get an error. This way, you cannot do this, guys. Okay, this way you cannot do this. Then what is the way? If this is not the way, to access, then what is the way? There's one way, guys. I'll just comment out this one. I'm going to show you the way. You cannot access like this. I'll just close this and create one more class. Outside the package only, I'll create one more class. I'll just name this class as sample2 class. Click on finish. Now, what I will simply do is, inside this particular class, which is outside the package, to access this protected modifier specified variables and methods, I'll make this particular class a child class. How to make this sample to a child class of the car class which belongs to a different package? What I have to do? I have to simply write extends car. I have to write. I'll get an error here. The reason why I'm getting an error here is this particular car class belongs to a different package, even though it is public. In order to access it, first I have to import it from protected modifier. This particular respective package, we have to import it. After importing that, now the extension is possible. Now create some sample method here, public void. Some sample method I'll create. Now in this sample method, I'll simply write down system.out.println. If this particular class is a child class of the car class, can I directly access this? Yes, you can directly print company here. The company will be automatically inherited by the child classes, right? Similarly, can I call this start car method? Yes, directly, because start car method will be automatically inherited by the child class. You see, I'm able to access, right? You see, am I getting an error here? By using extends, we can do this. You may have a doubt like whether I can do the same thing with default. Will it happen? You will get error in case of default case, okay? Fine. Now here I'll create something like I'm able to access or not. That is the main thing. I'm able to access the company. You see, company is inherited by the child class outside the package. Okay, if that particular variable and method are provided with protected modifier, you can access that. You can inherit that. Okay, except for child classes. For remaining all classes, it's private, guys. So here's company and here's start car, and here I'll simply write public static void. Otherwise, I'll simply write main, and here call this sample method. That's it.
So for the protected, the modifier, do we need to write in each line protected the keyword?
Which one?
Like you said, you wrote the protected string company, protected voyager, star car.
Yes, if you want to specify them with protected modifier, then you have to specify that. If you want this particular variable to be specified with the protected modifier, access modifier, then you have to specify it.
We cannot write protected as in the class level, like protected car, protected class car.
No, you cannot do that. Protected modifier cannot be specified before the class because it will become illegal modifier. Some modifiers are allowed in Java for the classes. Some modifiers are not allowed for some classes in Java. Okay, that for the classes in Java, the allowed modifiers are public and default modifiers. The private and protected are not allowed before the class. For variables and methods, all the modifiers are allowed. That is, access modifiers are allowed. You can either provide private before a variable, protected before a variable, public before a variable, default modifier before a variable. Similarly, with a method also, public, private, default, protected, everything you can provide before a method. But for class, only public and default are possible. Remaining two, if you give, you'll get compiler error saying that you cannot do that. Okay, illegal modifier kind of error, you will get it. Clear?
So if I making like 10 variables, then each time do I have to mention that protected?
Yes, you have to mention protected each time. Okay. If you want that particular variable to be of protected type, then you have to definitely mention.
Got it.
Okay. Here only one variable is there, right? If you have 10 variables, let's say protected string company is equal to protected string model is equal to protected string color is equal to, like that. You have to keep on adding protected everywhere. Okay. Same thing with the methods also. If you have multiple methods also, if you want that particular methods to be of protected type where they have to be public within the package and outside the package except for child classes, they should not be accessible, then you go with protected. So Naveen is asking me a question in general, when we go for protected and default in real time. So Naveen, in real time, I never used default or protected in my frameworks or somewhere. Okay, I didn't get a real reason why I have to use protected and default, but in Java they are providing that for knowledge purpose. We generally learn that, but most of the cases we provide public or private. Okay, most of the cases in real time we use private or public only. This protected and default is only just for the knowledge purpose, but mostly some cases, right? You create some variables, guys, without your notice, like this int a is equal to 5, you write like this, right? So this is which modifier? Tell me, guys. By default, you are writing like this. You are not worried about the modifier here. You are not specifying public, private here, or protected here. By default, it is default, right? Without your knowledge, you mentioned as default. So are you using this in real time? Are you using in real time? That means yes. The answer is yes, right? But without any purpose you are using that. Okay, without any purpose you are using that. Your intention is not to make that default or something, but generally we don't stress out for the variables, right? We don't provide any specific modifier. If you don't provide any modifier, by default it will become a default modifier. So default modifier is generally used without their intention, like this is a default modifier like that. Okay, it can be accessed within the package because it's public within the package. Outside the package it's private. People don't really recognize that. Okay, people don't really recognize because they don't especially put public there. Okay, until they come across some problem, why I'm not able to access this outside the package, then they will put public before that particular variable. For such kind of things, to handle such kind of situations, we should have definitely the knowledge of default and protected, but in general we can go with public for most of the variables, and if required only we can make them private, but protected and default are up to you. By default, as a casual way of writing the Java code, when you create the variables, right, you don't generally stress out on specifying some modifier, access modifier before a variable. So by default, it will become default, and that will be like public within the package and private outside the package. That knowledge you should have. Okay, at least about default you should have, but protected, in real time we don't mostly use it. Okay, but we should have the knowledge. Okay, except in child classes. Okay, except child classes, remaining all classes outside the package, it's private. Protected means, okay, default means for all the classes outside the package, it's private. Okay, so let me go back a bit and show you. You may ask me, like, if I make this sample to a child class of the car class, I'm able to access this company from this car class, even though it is protected, and start car. Okay, I'm able to do that, but normally using object reference or something, I'm not able to access these things, still protected, because except for the child classes. For child classes, you don't have to create an object, right? Directly you can access them. Okay, so that's what is the funda. So now you may ask me the question, like, for example, that is a default modifier. What if this car class is there? Car class is there. This particular class, variable, and method are like, default modifiers. They are private outside the package. Now, what if I create a class known as some sample2 class and make the sample2 class extends car class? Can I extend the car class there? First of all, can I extend the car class? Extends car. Can I do that? For the default modifier specified classes, can I do that over the mouse? Import for default modifier is not coming. You see, you cannot import even. You cannot import also, guys. Okay, so I'll copy this package. Otherwise, I'll copy this package. Import. I'll simply say import dot car. If I try to do that, I'll get an error here. You cannot import, guys. You cannot import the default modifier specified classes. Okay, so you cannot extend also, basically. So otherwise, I'll do one thing. I'll just make it public for a while. Okay, assuming that at least for class you should be able to access. So I just made this. Even though sample2 is a child class of the car class, in case of default modifier specified variables and methods, can you access them here? I'll just create something like public void sample method, and inside the method, I'm going to write down system.out.println, system.out.println color. If I say, can I access? I'm able to access. I'm able to access, guys. But default modifier, we cannot access. For protected modifier, if that particular class is a child class, then we can directly access. We can inherit this particular properties. Here, inheritance is also not possible. Outside the package, the default modifier specified classes, variables, and methods cannot be accessed. I made this temporarily, this class as public, so at least you are able to make this particular class as a child class, this particular class as a child class of the car class, but ultimately you cannot access this methods and variables because they are of default modifier. Even though these particular classes are child classes also, it's not possible. But for protected, for the same code with protected modifier, if I write protected here, just if I write protected here, will that be possible? Will that be possible, guys, for protected? Will that be possible for protected? The errors will be gone. You see, are the errors gone? In child classes, are the errors gone? The moment I make them protected, the errors are gone here. That means, except for child classes, protected modifiers will act like private. Okay. For the child classes, they will act like public only. Okay. You can access the variables like inherit as part of inheritance. You can access. But if I make that default again, if I make that default again, you cannot access. You cannot access. Again, errors will repeat, come again. And this is also default. You cannot even extend this car class also. I'll just comment this out so that otherwise errors will be there in the project. Hope everyone is clear. The difference between default and protected is clear. Any confusions, any questions you have?
So Arun,
Yes, sorry.
like all these access modifier we're using is to protect the data.
It's not about protecting the data. It's about modifying the access behavior of that particular variables, methods, and classes. If you have a different requirement where you want to, in some cases you want to make that things public, some cases you want that to be private, in some cases within the package you want to make it public, outside the package you want to make it private. Okay, in some cases within the package you want to make it public, but outside the package except for child classes you want to make it private. It's all about your requirements, where you want to access these variables, classes, and methods, outside the class, outside the package. To restrict that access, to modify the access, we use access modifiers. Got it? That's the name. That's why the name access modifiers came into picture. Okay, they will modify the access behavior of this variables, classes, and methods. Whether it can be within the package or outside the package, outside the class, it doesn't matter. Okay, different layers are there. For example, yesterday I covered about public. Public throughout the project, it's public only. Anyone outside the package or within the package, everywhere it's public only. But coming to private, only can be accessed within the class only. Outside the class, it will become, you cannot access. The restriction will be there for private variables. But if you talk about default modifier, within the package, all these variables, methods, and classes will act like public. Outside the package, they will act like private. Even for child classes, they will act like private. But coming to the protected modifier, within the package, they will act like public, but outside the package, except for child classes, they are private. For child classes, you can access using inheritance concept. Okay, got it now? Clear?
Yes.
Sir, correct me if I'm wrong. So in order
Yes,
of
sir.
how the data is restrictive, so it comes in order like private, default, protected, and then public, right?
What is that? Okay, full
Like
restriction. Okay, in order
in
means
how the data is restrictive, like
private means complete private only to that class only. Outside the class also you cannot
yeah.
access.
So it comes in that order, like so private will be
If
like
you want
very
to see with
restrictive,
the
and then
restriction levels, if you want to see that order with the restriction levels, highest restriction is with private only.
okay.
The first one is private because outside the class itself, you are not able to access, right? Even though within the package also, if another class is there, from that class also you cannot access private things. Okay, only within the package where the private variables and methods are specified, right? Okay, only within the package from other methods of the same package, within the class only you can access the private variables and methods. Okay, but outside the class, they are completely private. You cannot access them outside the class. Private means. Next level, if you go for next level of restriction is, this one. This is protected. Protected will come next. Within the package public, but outside the package.
So next is default, right? Private after
Default is
or
more
is it protected?
Okay. More restrictive, right? Yes. Default is next. Correct. In case of more
Yeah, I
restrictive.
was just confused there. Thanks.
Yes, correct. Right. So first one is private. Outside the class, you cannot access. Okay, within the class only you can access the private variables and methods. Second one is default, as you clearly mentioned, rightly mentioned, that is default because Only within the package you can access. Outside the package, at any cost, you cannot access. Even that is a child class or doesn't matter. You cannot access. It's completely private outside the package. Third one is the protected. Why? Because within the package, it is public. Outside the package, at least for child classes, it's public, but otherwise it is private. Okay. So, and last one is public, which is completely public, whether within the package or outside the package, doesn't matter. For everything, it is public. Okay. Throughout the project, you can access. So, public will come last. Correct. If you want in that.
Okay.
Do you provide this one in the note, those rules?
Yes, in the notes already there. Whatever the rules are already there here, you can see that. Okay. So, protected means public to all classes inside the same package and private to all classes which are outside the package except for child classes. Okay. Default means when no modifier is specified, then we name it as default modifier. Default means public to all classes inside the same package and private to all classes which are outside the package. Clear? You can take it from notes. Is that okay?
Yeah.
The important point, right? It will be definitely there in the notes. Okay. Okay, this is all about the access modifiers, guys. So everyone clear with access modifiers? If everyone is clear, just type C in the chat box. Everyone is clear, type C in the chat box. Yeah, that's great. Okay, then we have static. In non-access modifiers, what we have? In non-access modifier, we have static, final, and abstract, guys. Okay, non-access modifier, we have static, final, and abstract. Okay. So static, final, and abstract. Everyone writes static, final, and abstract in the non-access modifiers. We have three items. Static, one is final, and other one is abstract. First one is static. Second one is final. Third one is abstract. Third one is abstract. Third one is abstract. Got it? Static, final, and abstract are the three non-access modifiers we have. Everyone type in the chat box. First, I'll go with the easiest one. That is final. Out of these three non-access modifiers, the easiest one is final, guys. You can specify this final before a class, before a variable, before a method, doesn't matter. Everywhere you can specify all the three items, variables, methods, and classes can be specified with final. Okay, final non-access modifier. Now, if I go here under the non-access modifiers, I'll create a package known as final modifier. Okay, and here I'll create another package like static modifier. In advance, I'll create, guys, otherwise static modifier, and another modifier is abstract modifier dot abstract modifier. Okay, coming to the final modifier, I'll create a class. Guys, with the name. Let's create some sample class. Let's say car class. Okay, click on finish. Public class name will be there. Now I'll create a variable, guys. I'll just name this variable as final string. Okay, string color. Generally, I'll tell you what is that. Initially, I'll write color, guys. Okay, color. I'll put a semicolon. What is the problem that is coming here? Can I specify the final modifier before a variable? Can I specify the final modifier before the variable? What I told you here. Can I specify the final modifier before a variable? What I told you, variable, methods, and classes, you can specify and say it. but here I am getting an error. The reason for the error is different, guys. The reason for the error is different. That is, whenever you specify the final modifier before a variable, that variable, okay, has to be initialized in the same line where it is declared. Got it, guys? Clear? That particular variable need to be initialized. Over the mouse, why you are getting the error? The blank final field may not have been initialized. You have to initialize it with some color or something. You just initialize, give some value. It's asking you to initialize it. For example, I'll give red color. Okay, I got initialized. Is there any problem now? After initializing, I'm able to provide the final modifier. Yes, right? After providing the final modifier, after initializing the final modifier, we are not getting any error. Only the thing that is it is wanting is that that particular variable should be initialized in the same line where it got declared with some variable, some data type or some class type. Okay. Now, main thing about this final modifier, apart from the initializing part, is that you have to initialize in the same line where you have declared it. Apart from that, can you update the value? Can you update the value of this particular variable? Tell me, guys. If I write something like public void update color, like some color, some method I'm creating, can I say color is equal to gray? Can I change the red color to gray color now? I'm getting an error. The
I don't
final
think so.
cannot be assigned. This is final means final only. The value of this particular variable cannot be updatable. Got it, guys? This is not possible in Java. The reason why people will provide final modifier, final non-access modifier before the variables, for creating the constants. This is nothing but a constant, guys. The value of this particular variable, if it is not able to change, means that is nothing but a constant. While writing Java program, sometimes you have to create constants where you don't want the programmers to modify the value of that particular constants. Okay. Variable means the variable itself says that variable, it is varying from one value to another value. It can vary. That's why the name has come as variable. But this color is a variable or a constant now. If you specify this color with a final modifier, this is now a variable or it is a constant. Tell me. It is a constant. Constant means it will be constant. It will not change. Variable means whose value will change. If I don't provide final here, this is a variable or constant now. If I remove the final modifier before this, is a variable or a constant now. It's a variable now, whose value can be updatable. You see, color is equal to gray, no issues will come. You can update the value here. You see, the value of the original value red got updated with gray color here inside the method. But if I provide final here, it's no more a variable, it's called as a constant. Generally, constants are provided like this, guys. Okay, color. Otherwise, I'll write car color. Okay, car underscore color. This is a kind of naming convention you generally create the constants with, guys. Okay, car underscore color, like that you provide, because everything is in capital letter, right? So if I don't provide underscore, people cannot read these variables, these constants properly. There's a reason. Snake case, upper snake case is followed. Upper snake case. What is this case? What is the naming convention we are following for the naming the constants when there are multiple words? Upper snake case. Underscore is nothing but snake kind of thing. Okay. If the complete letters, if I write something like this, star in lowercase, if I write, for example, this is not the correct thing, but I'm writing, for example, this is called as lower snake case. Car color one like this. Okay, this is called as lower snake case. Okay, naming convention I'm talking about, but here for constants you have to give upper snake case. Upper snake case only you have to provide. Okay, upper snake case only you have to provide. As per the naming conventions in Java, for constants you have to provide the upper snake case like this. Okay. And when you see this kind of stuff, right, you can clearly know that these are constants. Okay, by looking at that, you know that these are constants whose value cannot be updatable, and basically they are specified with final modifier. Such kind of things are called as constants. Okay, whose value cannot be updatable, and the value have to be, the data has to be initialized in the same line where it got declared. There are two rules for this final modifier specified variables. Okay, before the variables, if you provide final, it will become a constant. There are few rules. What is that? Is the same line where you have declared that particular thing. Okay, that particular variable you can say for a while. Okay, you have to initialize in the same line. Okay, the same line where it got declared, and you cannot update it anymore. That's what is the final modifier, non-access modifier does to a particular variable. It will make the variable convert into a constant which need to be initialized in the same line and which cannot be updatable in later parts of the program. Okay, clear everyone? What will happen if you specify the final modifier before a variable? What will happen to that variable is clear. It will become a constant whose value need to be initialized in the same line and it cannot be updatable elsewhere in the program. Okay, only in the same line. It has to be initialized only once. After that initialization, no more updations. If it is clear, guys, final modifier before the variables is clear, just type C in the chat box or S in the chat box, whatever you feel convenient, so that I can move on to the next, applying the final for the next item. I'll apply final for the next item, guys. Okay. Anyone have any doubts here? Specifying the final before the variables will make it constants and they need to be initialized in the same line where they got declared and you cannot update anymore. Yes, we cannot make any modifications or update. Okay, such kind of things only have to provide final. Correct, Manju, you are right. We cannot make modifications or update to that particular value of that particular constant. Okay, which is specified with final modifier. Got it? Now I'm going to the next one. Okay, now I'm going to the next one. What if I provide the same final instead of before a variable? The variable become a constant, right? But what if I provide that before a method? What will happen if I provide that before a method? I'll tell you. Okay, what will happen if I specify the final before a method? Public final void some method I am saying. Okay, in this method system.out.println inside update color method some statement I am writing. Now, what will be the problem? What will happen, guys? What will happen if I specify final before a method? This particular method cannot be overridden. What will happen, guys? Tell me. This particular method cannot be overridden. The day before yesterday's session, I covered overriding concept, right? The methods which are specified with final modifier cannot be overridden. How can I prove you that? Tell me, guys. How if I have to prove you that this particular method cannot be overridden, what I have to do? What kind of program I have to write to prove you that this particular method cannot be overridden? That is annotation.
Same
That is
method
annotation.
used.
Okay, but what code I have to write? You have to tell me.
Same method.
Same method means what?
Public void update color.
Same method what?
So by creating object in the same method.
No, that's not the correct thing. What is overriding? Tell me, guys. What is overriding? First of all, tell me what is overriding. If you know what is overriding.
Same method use.
Huh?
Same method use.
Same method use where?
In
Here,
the class.
in the
Same method use where? Is the question.
Child
Child class.
here 14 line.
No, that's not right. That's not correct. So create a new class, guys. I'll just name this class as some BMW or something. Just some random name I'm giving. Click on finish. Click on finish. Here, I'm going to make this BMW extends car class, right? The moment I make this BMW extends car class, now in the child class also, if I duplicate this method, if I copy paste the same method in the child class, I'll remove this final modifier here. Anyhow, is it possible to override? Is it possible to override?
Yes.
Cannot override the final method from the car. Okay, so guys, if you are not clear with the overriding concept, go and refer to the previous sessions, okay, where I explained. Okay, so overriding is a concept where in the child class, if you duplicate the method of the parent class in the child class, that is called as the method that is duplicated in the child class of the parent class method, which is duplicated in the parent class method, which is duplicated in the child class, is called as overridden method. Okay, this concept is called as overriding. This method is overriding the method in the parent class. Okay, try to remember that and practice more. Okay, so here I'm trying to override this particular method in the child class. If I remove this final modifier you see from the parent class, the error is gone. Can I override now? Can I override? The moment I remove final modifier from the parent class, can I override that particular method in the child class? Yes or no? Yes, I can override the method in the child class, right? But what if I provide final modifier You see here, how to prove that this particular method is overriding this particular method in the parent class when final modifier is not there. How to prove that, guys? Using some annotation, I have to prove that. What is that annotation? @override annotation.
Override.
Okay, if I write @override annotation, sorry, there is a spelling mistake. Override. Okay, @override annotation. If I do this, you see, I'm not getting an error. That means this particular method in the child class is a duplicate method of the parent class. That means this particular method is overriding the method in the parent class. Okay, using this annotation, which is optional annotation, we can prove that this particular method is really overriding or not. It's overriding, but the moment I provide final right, you will get a compiler error saying that cannot override the final method from the parent class. Okay, this is not possible at all. Got it, guys? Clear? If you specify final modifier before a variable, that particular variable will convert into a constant which need to be initialized in the same line where it got declared, and you cannot update the value of that particular variable. But what happens if I specify the same final variable before a method? What happens? That method cannot be overridden. That method cannot be overridden. Final modifier specified methods cannot be overridden in the child classes. If I remove the final modifier, you can override the method. That's what is the behavioral change that is doing. Final non-access modifier is changing the behavior of the method. Okay, there may be some situations where while the developers are creating the parent classes, they don't want some methods to be overridden by the child classes. So in that cases, they will mention final modifier before that particular kind of methods. There may be some situations the developers will write final modifier before the variables for which the value of that particular variable should not be updatable. Okay, such kind of variables, developers will write final modifier before the variables whose value should not be changeable. Okay, for the methods which should not be overridden by the child classes, for such kind of method, developers will provide the final modifier. And tell me, guys, the final one, the last one about the final is, can I specify final modifier before a class? Can I specify final modifier before a class? Tell me. Can I specify final modifier before a class? Yes or no? Yes, we can specify final modifier before a class also. Then what will happen? What will happen, guys, if you see, before specifying final modifier, can I create child classes? Can I create child classes for this car class, which is not specified with final modifier? Can I create the child class? Inheritance is possible, yes or no? Inheritance is possible, yes or no, before I specify final? You see, inheritance is possible. Before I specify final for these classes, the inheritance is possible. You see, BMW class has become a child class of the car class, means inheritance is possible. But the moment I provide final, you will get an error here. The type BMW cannot subclass the final class. Final classes cannot contain children. Final classes cannot contain children. Okay, got it? Clear, everyone? Now you have to answer my questions. Guys, you have to answer my questions. Let me know your answers now. I'll ask you, if I specify final modifier before a variable, what will happen to that particular variable? Tell me, guys. What will happen to that particular variable? Variable will become a constant. Variable will get converted to a constant whose value cannot be
Modified or changed.
Modified or changeable. Okay, so cannot change or modify the value of that particular constant anymore. Okay, the moment you provide final before a variable, it becomes a constant. You have to initialize that particular variable within the same line where you have declared, and at the same time you cannot update it. Okay, once initialized, you cannot update that initialized value. What if I provide the same final non-access modifier before a method? What happens to that particular method?
Not override.
Yes, overriding of such method in child classes. Child classes is restricted. Okay, is restricted. Clear, na? Now, what if I specify final modifier before a class?
Not possible to inherit child.
Yeah, cannot create child classes for the class. Once the class becomes final, means for that particular class we cannot create child classes. It cannot contain any, it cannot be parent of any child. Okay, it cannot be a parent of any child, like that. Okay, not possible to inherit. Simple. Or cannot make that particular final class as a parent of any other class. Okay, or cannot create child classes for that class. Any way you can explain, no problem. So everyone clear with this final modifier before a variable, method and class is clear for everyone? Just type C in the chat box if it is clear for you. Just type C or Y in the chat box if it is clear for you. The final modifier specified before a variable will become a constant. Final modifier when specified before a method cannot be overridden by the child classes. Final modifier when specified before a class cannot be inherited by the child classes. Okay? Cannot contain child classes or cannot be inherited. Simple. Okay? So this is what is all final about, guys. Now we have two more things. I'll go with the abstract last. Okay? First I have to cover static only. Can you specify? Okay. Static. Static can be specified before what? Static can be specified before what, guys? Only variables and methods. Only variables and methods. For only variables and methods, you can specify static. Can you provide static before a class? No. What will happen if you provide static before a class? Illegal modifier error will come as usual. Now tell me, guys, till now I explained three modifiers. Till now I told you three modifiers which cannot be specified before the class. What are those three modifiers? Tell me, guys. What are this list of modifiers which cannot be specified before a class? Tell me. What are the list of modifiers? Yes, private is one modifier which cannot be specified before a class. You will get illegal modifier. Another one is protected modifier. Another one is static. Final is wrong. Final is wrong. Final I just now showed you, right? Final before a class, if you provide it, that particular class cannot be inherited. It cannot contain child classes. Okay. The answer is these three things: private, protected, and static are the modifiers in Java which cannot be specified before a class. Remaining all modifiers you can specify before a class. Only private, protected, static. These three modifiers cannot be specified before a class. Okay, I'll show you. I'll try to create a static modifier, specify a static modifier before a class, and show you that it will result in illegal modifier error. Okay, it will result in illegal modifier error. Save this. Now here under modifiers, under non-access modifiers, I'll create already I created static modifier package right earlier itself. I'll create a class. I'll just name this class as some car class. That's okay, guys. Click on finish and try to specify static modifier here. What is happening? The moment I specify static modifier before a class, what is happening? What type of error I am getting? What type of error I am getting, guys? Illegal modifier error I am getting. Okay, illegal modifier. That means you cannot specify static before a class. Static cannot be specified before a class. It will result in illegal modifier if you try to. Whether it is static or private or protected, you cannot specify before a class, guys. Remaining modifiers you can specify. Okay, so fine. Next thing is about the variables and methods, right? Can I specify static before variables and methods then? If static is not specifiable before, you cannot specify static before a class, but can you specify before a variable and method? Can you specify static before a variable and method? Yes. Static. Okay. Static string color is equal to red. Okay, I'll give that. That's okay. This is static modifier specified. I can specify the static modifier before a variable. What about a method? Can I specify the static modifier before a method? Public static void start car system.out.println car started. Can I specify the static modifier before a method and variable? Yes. What will happen if you specify the static modifier before a particular variable or a method in Java? What will happen, guys? The static modifier specified variables and methods belong to the object memory or class memory?
Class memory.
The moment I provide
memory.
static, the static variables and methods belong to which memory, guys? Class memory. Okay.
Class memory.
Earlier I explained you, right, in object-oriented concepts, like when I explained about object class, okay, constructors, this keyword, static keyword I covered, right? If you remember, like we have a kind of example where we have different type of variables like string, company is equal to string company, otherwise string company is equal to, let me give some values also, not a problem. Okay, BMW, let's give some sample company. Okay, so string model is equal to, or string company, I'll say string company, then string model, then string color, int price, int wheels, let's say int wheels. So in this, all these four variables, which of the variables should be made as static? Tell me, guys. Which of the variables should be made as static? Company, model, color, and wheels. Which one I have to make it static? The wheels. Why wheels should be made static? That's correct. Wheels should be static, and I can assign the value also, because every car will have same 4 wheels. So for every object, I should not waste the memory. If you remember in that topic where I covered about object class constructor, this keyword, static keyword, right? I covered this already. If you don't remember, try to go and watch the previous session, guys. The variables which are specified with the static belong to the class memory, which is a common memory. Okay, common kind of stuff generally will be mentioned as static generally, guys. Okay, that's not the only way why we mention static for the variables. There is another way, another reason for mentioning static. Apart from this, generally speaking, the common stuff, okay, or static stuff is nothing but common stuff which belong to the class memory, is the theoretical part. But why people have to make it static? Why people make it static, I'll let you know now. Okay, I'll create some method also here. Public void start car method I'll create, and it's a normal method. I'm not providing any modifier here. Here I'm not specifying static modifier. System.out.println, I'll say car started, and here I'll write down public void public. This method intentionally I'm writing static here. Don't worry, it's common or uncommon, don't worry. Stop car, but here I'm providing static keyword for the stop car method. Here I'll say system.out.println, car stop. Now, if this is the kind of situation, guys, I'll give some values also here. Don't worry why I'm giving values, but I'll give the values also. BMW, let's say, and here I just want to make the code look simple. That's why I'm giving this. X3 color is equal to blue color. Okay, like this I gave something. So now if I create one more class, I'll just name this class as demo class with main method. So this demo class is a separate class or not? Guys, is demo class is a separate class from the car class? Yes or no? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes.
Low battery.
Demo class is a separate class from the car class. Now in the demo class, if I want to access the variables and methods of this car class, what I have to do here? Tell me.
Create an object.
You have to create an object, right? Generally, car is equal to new car. Like this, we'll create an object. Now using the object reference, we can access which kind of members of this class. Tell me, which kind of members of this class you have to access using the object reference? Whatever the things that are related to the memory, you have to access. I mean object memory. What out of all these 4 variables, which belong to the object memory or instance memory? Which variables belong to the object memory?
Object memory void start.
Company, model, and color.
Color belongs to the object memory, whereas instance memory or object memory, instance object both are same, but wheels doesn't belong to the object memory. So using this object reference, is it recommended to access wheels? This is an object reference, right? Using the object reference, we have to access the variables and methods of this class which belong to the object memory or instance related stuff you have to access. So here when I say system.out.println car.company, I can say you see no errors, nothing. We can access because the company belongs to which memory? The company belongs to class memory or object memory, or in class memory or object memory?
Object memory.
Object memory, that is instance memory anyhow. It doesn't belong to the class memory. Okay, if it is common only, it's kind of, if it's provided with static modifier here, then only it belongs to the class memory. Otherwise, it belongs to the object memory. So object memory kind of stuff you have to access using the object reference. You have to create an object for the class, and using the object for the class, you have to access that variables. Now car dot. Yes, Rakesh, tell me. Car dot, then model. Okay, next one is car dot model. How I am able to access the model? Using the object reference. Why? Because this particular variable will belong to the instance, that is object. Instance global variable, you can call this, and it belongs to object related stuff, and whose value can change from object to object. That's another reason. Okay, you can access. Same thing, using object reference, you can access. System.out.println, I can also say car dot color. I can say car dot color also. I can say car dot color also. Next thing is, do I have to do the same thing for wheels? Tell me guys, do you have to do the same thing for wheels? Using object reference can access wheels? We can access, but that's not the right way. We can access, but that's not the right way. If I say car dot wheels, it will come, but you will get a warning message. You will not get any error. What will happen if you try to access the wheels, which belong to the static memory, that is a class memory, which is specified with static keyword? Do you have to use object reference? It's not use. Why? Because you are already getting a warning message. This is not a good practice. It's saying the static field car.val should be accessed in a static way. What is mean by static way, guys? What is mean by static way? With the help of what I have to access these wheels? With the help of object reference of the class, or with the help of what I have to access? Tell me. With the help of the class name. What is the class name? It belongs to the class memory. So with the help of class name, I have to access. You should not use object reference here. In place of object reference here, let's say car1, I'll say car1, car1, car1. But here I should be using the car class. Here I should be using the class name, that is car. Car is a class name. Class name dot wheels I have to say. Clear everyone? How to access the static variables? Is it clear? Using the name of the class, you have to access the static variables. What about the instance variables? How to access the instance variables, which are non-static variables or instance variables or object variables? You have to access them using the object reference of the class. Okay, you have to create an object for the class, and using that object reference, you have to access them. Clear everyone? Clear? Clear? Static variables should be accessed using the class name, not object reference. You can access, but you will get a warning message. That's not the right way. Okay. Now, there are two types of methods here. One is instance method, which is not having the static keyword, means it belongs to the object memory. And other method is a static method, which belongs to the class memory. Okay. Static method is there. Non-static or object method is there. So here, using the object reference, that is car1, using the car1, that is car1 dot start car, I can access. That's correct only. But I can also access the stop car also, but that's not the right way. You'll get a warning message saying that static method stop car from the type car should be accessed in a static way. How to access it? Using the class name car dot stop car, you have to access. Clear? Clear everyone? Okay, I'll just comment this one out. Now, if I make all these variables, you see, there may be some situations where while creating the framework site, what we do is, there may be some situation where we want to access this particular variables and methods in the easiest way. Forget about whether it is a common thing should be stored in the class memory, uncommon thing should be stored in the object. Forget about that. Okay. There may be some situations where we don't take that concept too seriously as developers of a frameworks, of Selenium automation frameworks, etc., where our motto is to access these particular variables easily. Easily we should be able to access. In that case, by creating object, it is easy to access, or by making them static, it's very easy to access. Tell me, which one is easiest way? Which one is the easiest way, guys, to access? By making all those things as static. To make our accessing of these particular variables and methods from a particular class easy during some framework creations and all, just to make the things not too complicated and make them easy and very easy to access. Okay, mainly utility methods kind of stuff whenever we use, right? Generally utility methods containing a class, and there will be a lot of third-party utility methods in the frameworks. Okay, so in that cases, we'll make all the variables and methods as static inside that class. The reason behind that is the ease of access, guys. What is the ease of access? Here you see system.out.println car class. I don't have to create an object anymore. Car.company directly access. System.out.println. Okay, I don't have to create an object. Without creating an object, directly using the class name, I can access that, guys. Okay, I don't have to every time create an object for the class. Okay, so in that cases also we can go with we can make the variables and methods as static so that, you don't have to worry too much about accessibility, like you have to create object every time, to create that or to access that particular variables and methods. The moment you make that particular variables and methods as static, directly using the class name, you can access those particular variables and methods. Car dot start car dot stop car. You see, did I create any object here? In this case, did I create an object here, guys? Tell me. Is it easy or no? Compared to creating object and using the object reference to access the variables and methods, if I make all these variables and methods inside the class as static, using the class name, I'm able to access in a easier manner. So this is one purpose that developers will make the thing static. Though there is a concept like static belongs to the common memory and all those stuff, but still, programmatically, if you think behind the concept, some developers or we as automation engineers while creating the frameworks, right, we may use this static concept as a shortcut, as a kind of shortcut to make our job easy in accessing the variables and methods outside the class by using the class name dot static, class name dot variable, class name dot method. Okay, to make that easiness of accessing, we'll make the thing static. Okay, there's another reason of making the variables and methods static. It's not always common variables, common methods. It's not always the same concept, guys. Sometimes we as automation engineers who are creating the frameworks or developers who are writing the code may think that, okay, this kind of methods or variables should be able to be accessible easily. To make that accessibility easy, we provide the static keyword before that variables and methods so that we can access them easily with the help of the class name without the need of creating an object outside the class. Okay, if we want to create the variables and methods of a class outside the class without creating an object, what is the only way? What I have to do, guys, if I have to access the variables and methods of a class outside the class without creating an object, what I have to do? Without creating an object, if I have to access, what I have to make? All these variables and methods I have to make that static so that I can use the class name to access them. Okay, after making them static without creating an object, by using the class name, I can access the variables and methods outside the class. That is a technique. That's what is the technique that I am teaching you. Okay, I'm trying to help you understand. Everyone clear with this concept of static concept so far is clear for you? Great.
Sorry, I have a question.
Yes, Vishnu, tell me.
Yeah. So if we here we are declaring a like a variable, right, with static keyword. So do we need to do the like initialization also in the same line, or it can be on the different lines?
I didn't get that. Come again. Same line means?
So in the sense, like if we go if we see the 8th line, right, here we are saying like static int wheels is equal to 4. So can we write like static int wheel and semicolon, then wheels is equal to 4, something like that? Or?
Like this you are saying? Can we do like this or not, something you are saying?
Yes.
Okay. The reason here is, it's not allowed here. I'll tell you what is the reason. I'll just remove this. This is okay. This is okay. But if you want to assign the value, right, you have to go inside the methods. Wheels is equal to 4, you have to write here otherwise. Okay, that's okay.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thanks.
Okay, got it?
Yeah, got it. Thank you.
You cannot update the write the statements outside the methods, right? Don't accept this kind of declarations and all. Okay, initialization declarations you can do, but other statements like updation statements you cannot directly write under the class. You have to go inside a particular method for that. So I directly declared here. Okay, that's okay.
But if it's final, we need to do both on the same line, right?
Yes, if it is final means definitely it can be both final and static also. It can be both final and static. If I make final and static, you cannot update the value. It should be initialized in the same line. You cannot update here. Okay. And at the same time, you can access this particular wheels constant with the help of class name also, because it's static also, right? Car.wheels you can, and car.wheels cannot be updatable because final is also there. Okay. So like that, you can combine the stuff also. Maybe I'll explain this concept in interfaces. Okay. In interfaces, right, by default, the variables you create inside the interface are by default static and final by default. Okay. So at that time, I'll explain the combination of static and final for the variables. Okay. For now, just don't worry about that. If you make it final means you have to initialize here itself and you cannot update the value anywhere. Okay. If you make static means it's not compulsory to initialize, you can update the value. Okay. Anywhere else. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Only fine for final, we cannot update the value. And it also initialize in the same line. Okay, this is something about static when comparing to the variables and methods, but we are still not done with the static. Still, we are not done with the static guys. Okay, I'll tell you what is the reason. There's one more item that you have to understand about static. Till now, it is clear, right? Static variables and methods can be accessed using the class name. Is clear now? Okay. So next thing is static methods. I'll say. Okay, static methods demo. I'll say. Click on finish. Here, guys, I'll create a method. We are using this method from long time. That is nothing but the main method. Everyone know the main method, right? Main control space. You press control space after the main, it will get auto-generated the code, public static, or you can type it also if you want, if you remember. Okay. So main method by default is a static method or not. In the first day of the session only, I told you that I'm going to cover all this. You see, now if you see all these modifiers, if you see all these keywords, guys, package is one keyword, public is one keyword, class is one keyword. All these things are already covered or not? Yes or no? Package, public, class, public. Static is also covered to some extent now. Void is also covered. Almost all keywords I covered. I promised you in the beginning days, right? In the first or second day of the sessions, I told you, right? All this. Don't worry about these keywords. At the right time, I'm going to explain that. Now the time has come for me to finish up this last keyword, that is static keyword also. To some extent, I explained you what is static, but there is few more things that is left out related to static. Everyone type in the chat box. Static methods can only access static stuff directly. Everyone type in the chat box. Static methods can access only the static stuff directly. Everyone type this particular statement in the chat box. Static methods can only access the static stuff directly. Static methods can only access the static stuff directly. This particular rule you guys have to remember. Okay, the directly word is also very important. Okay, don't miss directly word. Okay, here directly. If a particular method which is of static type has to access some static stuff, to access directly, right? Only static stuff can be accessed directly. What does that mean? For example, here this is a main method. Now I'm going to create a global variable. Int a is equal to 5. Is this a static variable, static global variable, or instance global variable? Tell me, guys. It is static global variable or instance global variable? Instance global variable, right? It's a instance. It's a instance global variable. It's not a static. So in such kind of cases, if I say system.out.println, system.out.println a, what is happening, guys? Cannot make a static reference to the non-static field a is coming. Can access this, can a static method can access the non-static stuff directly, that is instance stuff directly? Can a static method can access the instance stuff directly? No. What if I put static keyword here? The error will be gone. Is error gone? Is error gone? Yes, because static methods can access the static stuff directly. Static methods can access the static stuff directly. But what about the non-static? Can I access this non-static stuff directly? If I remove the static keyword, error is again coming. Directly, it is not possible. Directly, it is not possible. So fine, I'll make it static. I'll create one more variable. I'll just make this variable as int b is equal to 10. Now can I access this variable? System.out.println b can access. A I can access because that is a static variable. What about b? B is not a static variable. Hence, non-static stuff cannot be accessed directly. Only static methods can access the static stuff directly. Non-static stuff cannot be accessed directly is the thing. Now I'll create some methods also. Public void sample1. It is a static method or instance method. This particular method is a static method or instance method. Tell me, guys. System.out.println inside sample1. It is an instance method because it doesn't have any static keyword mentioned. I'll create a static method now. Public static void sample2. 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 System.out.println inside sample2. Like this, I'll write inside sample2. Okay, clear? So this one is a instance method. This one is a static method. So if I try to access like this, okay, sample1 can access the non-static stuff directly from the static. Main method is a static method. Main method is a static method. From the static method can access a non-static stuff directly, error is coming. What about the static method, that is sample2 method? Can access the sample2 method directly? Sample2 method directly can access? Yes, because it is static method. Because it is a static method. That means it's very clear, right? Static methods like main method can only, or any other non-main method also if it is static, right? Static methods can only access static stuff. Static stuff means static variables and methods directly. What about the non-static stuff? They cannot be accessed directly. I'm not saying that you cannot access. I'm saying that you cannot access them directly. Directly, if you try to access, you cannot access. But is there any other indirect way where by using that indirect way we can access the non-static stuff inside a static method? What may be the indirect way? Anyone tell me? What is the indirect way? Yes, by creating the objects for the class in which the non-static variables and methods are there, right? Inside this main method, if you want to access the variables and methods, they have to be static stuff if you have to access them directly. But if you want to access them indirectly, if you want to access the non-static methods or instance methods inside static methods, it is possible, but indirectly it's possible by creating an object. What is the name of this class? Sample methods demo is the name of the class. I'm just copy pasting it. SMD is equal to new static methods, and like this I'll create an object for the class, guys, and using this object reference, I'll call this, I will access this variable using this object reference smd dot, I'll call this method. Now is it possible? Static methods have to access non-static stuff by creating object for their class. Object for the class. By creating object for the class and using that object reference, we have to access the non-static stuff. But directly you cannot access, but indirectly by creating an object for the class, you can access the non-static stuff inside the static methods. Everyone clear with this concept? Everyone clear with this concept? Is it clear, guys? Static methods can only access the static stuff directly, but if the static methods have to access the non-static stuff, which is not possible directly, we have to create an object for that particular class in which non-static stuff is there, and using that object reference of the class, we have to access the non-static variables and non-static methods inside the static methods. Clear, everyone? Type C in the chat box if it is clear for you. If this concept is clear for you, just type C in the chat box. Great. Okay, great. Now, what about the rules and regulations for non-static methods? Are there any rules and regulations for non-static methods? No rules and regulations. No rules and regulations. No regulations. No rules and no regulations. That means in non-static methods, you can access both static stuff and non-static stuff directly. Non-static methods can access both static and non-static stuff directly. Okay. Only the problem is there with the static methods. For static methods to access the non-static stuff, you have to create an object for the class in which the non-static methods and variables are available, and using the object reference we have to access. But coming to the non-static method, you can access all the things directly, guys. System.out.println, you see, system.out.println A, no problem at all. A is a static variable, you can access directly here in the non-static method. System.out.println B, no problem at all. Then sample2 method, you see, what is the problem here? Sample2 method, okay, it's okay. And I'll create another normal method, that is non-static method, public void sample3, public void sample3, system.out.println inside sample3, I'll write down inside sample3, and here I'll try to call this method sample3. No problem at all. From non-static methods, there are no rules and regulations. Are there any rules and regulations in non-static methods to access the static or non-static stuff? Are there any rules? No rules. Everyone type no rules for no rules. Simply no rules. Okay. Only for static methods only. Static methods only. There are some rules where directly if you want to access the variables and methods, they have to be of static type. Indirectly, if you want to access, you have to create an object reference and for the particular class. And then, using the object reference, we have to access the non-static variables and methods inside the static methods indirectly. But coming to the non-static methods, you can access both static stuff and non-static stuff directly. There's no rules and no rules for non-static methods. Yes, correct, Vishnu. No rules for non-static methods is the answer. Correct. So everyone clear? Everyone clear with this concept of static modifier in Java? Everyone clear with the static modifier in Java? Static can be provided with before variables and methods. I covered everything about static, guys. Okay. So all the variety of static is very important keyword out of all the modifiers, right? Static modifier is very important. So when you are learning modifiers, right, you have to put utmost focus, more focus on static modifier, because all other modifiers are very simple and straightforward. But static is not like that. Okay. Static has a lot of things to learn. Okay. I've been teaching you static from the previous sessions only. It's a common variable for the class, common memory, static memory, I told you. Later today, I told you, right, the static variables and methods can be accessed directly using the class name. To simplify the process of accessing the variables and methods outside the class, you can make the variables and methods inside the particular class as static. Then I'm telling you that this particular static methods can only access the static stuff directly. To access the non-static stuff, we have to use the indirect way of creating the object for the class in which the non-static methods and variables are there. For non-static methods, we can access the static stuff and non-static stuff directly. All these are the rules and regulations of static, guys. And static cannot be provided before a class because you'll get illegal modifier error, which is not okay. Correct. Yeah, I'll not explain about the blocks. There is static block also. These are all advanced topics. I don't want to mix here. Maybe in the upcoming sessions, I'll cover static blocks. Okay, not now. There are two types of blocks like instance blocks, static blocks. Okay, all these concepts I'll cover later. Okay. I'll not cover this as part of the modifiers, etc. Okay. And last modifier is abstract, guys. This abstract I am going to cover tomorrow. Abstract along with the interfaces. Two more topics are left out. In the modifier, the last modifier is left out is abstract, and the last and one more concept is there known as interfaces. So they are connected, guys. Somehow this abstract modifier and interfaces are somehow related, that you will understand tomorrow. Okay. In tomorrow's session, tomorrow is weekend, right? Tomorrow is weekend. I'll not cover on weekends for you. Again, you have the session on Monday, guys. Monday evening we'll connect. Tomorrow only for batch 1 the sessions are there. Okay, and that too I'm going to take in the evening hours only from 5:30 p.m. I'm going to take for batch 1 people. Okay, morning sessions are not there tomorrow even for batch 1 because I'm not available in the morning hours. In the evening hours from 5:30 p.m. batch 1 sessions will go on where I'm covering the TestNG concept for them. So if you guys are interested in TestNG sessions, TestNG framework concepts related sessions, we are already done with 4 to 5 parts. Maybe 6th part or 5th part we are going to start tomorrow. Okay, we are going to continue TestNG tomorrow for the batch 1 from 5:30 p.m. onwards. Tomorrow and day after tomorrow only for batch 1, guys, not for batch 2. If anyone from the batch 1 is interested in the TestNG sessions, you also can attend. Okay, so our next session on this abstract modifier and this interfaces will be on Monday, guys. On Monday we'll complete this abstract modifier and interfaces. Then we'll go for, from Tuesday we'll continue with the Selenium automation. Okay, from Tuesday, mostly Monday we'll complete abstract modifier and interfaces, and on Tuesday I'll start the Selenium automation. Some 2 to 3 sessions I'll take on Selenium automation, and 2 to 4 sessions maybe, or a 1 week of sessions maybe there on Selenium automation. After that, again, I'll go with some other Java concepts for you. Fine. So clear, everyone? Just type C in the chat box if you are clear with today's session. If you have any questions, you can ask me right away. If you have any questions, you can ask me, guys. This is all for today from my side. If you have any questions, you can ask me. Guys, any questions?
Sir, I have a question. Sir, I have a question.
Yes, please.
So I see that you use a non-access modifier such as static and final along with an access modifier that is public, right? So my question is, can we use it along with the different like protected, default, and
No, you can
private?
use
And
it.
will
You
the
see, you can use a
so when
combination.
using
You
that,
can try
will
that
the
out.
functionality change?
Yeah, definitely. It will, the particular variable or method that you are applying that multiple modifiers, right? Okay. They will get the properties of the both the modifiers. For example, if you say that as private private final, let's say,
Yeah.
what will happen? The value of the variable cannot be updatable because the variable is no more a variable, it become a constant. That is one thing. And at the same time, that particular variable can be, or that particular constant can be accessed only within the class because it is private type.
Yeah.
Both the things will be applied. You can try all those combinations. Okay.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
You can use the combinations. Okay. But it's not that much important to combine the stuff until it is really required, because very rare situations where you have to combine and use in real time. Okay. Most of the cases we combine static and final. Okay. Static final will be combined generally in real time.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, whenever you get a chance, right, just try it out. Okay. But ultimately, static final, anyhow, I'm going to explain with interfaces, but other modifiers within combination how to use, you can experiment that. You can take that as an assignment and try that out. Okay. Whether I'm applying public and final together or like that, you just try here and there. Okay. That's okay. Just to build the confidence, that's okay. But it's not compulsory to, practice that. If you're really interested, take that as an assignment and do it. Yes. Yeah. Any other questions?
Hi Arun.
Yes, Jyoti, tell me.
Yeah, several times I have pinged you regarding the job and some queries are there. So I did not get any answer on that.
I didn't get that. Come again.
My question was today it was one interview. Okay, so shall I reschedule? Shall I give a mail to them that to reschedule it or not? Some practical questions were there. I was asking on a WhatsApp. Okay,
Okay,
but I
okay.
did not get any answer. Means if is it possibility is there? It will get rescheduled or not? So yeah, you have much experience in that. No, so rescheduling the interview is good or not? I wanted this answer.
If you have a genuine reason and you don't want to miss the opportunity, then you should not
Okay.
reschedule. Okay.
Okay.
Sometimes what happens is you may not be the only the person who is attending the interview, right? They may be calling 10 or
Yes.
more people. So if they got the real candidate right and you miss that particular thing, okay, they may be in a mood that let's take it light. Okay. So there's a
Okay.
possibility. So if you don't want to miss that, better not to
Mm-hmm.
reschedule. Okay. Better not to reschedule. Okay.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. And one
That's
more thing.
real time.
After yes.
Yes, tell me.
Okay. Okay. After doing all this automation testing, so we'll be presenting them as an automation test engineer that we have experience in what we need to show to them that we have experience in that or we have knowledge in that.
Automation testing, you say?
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, you can show as an experience because I'm going to cover a real automation project. You'll definitely get the confidence, so no need to worry much. You have to provide, say that you have some amount of experience according to your confidence levels and according to the level you practice my sessions, right? Based on that, you can
Yeah.
increase the experience and then mention that.
Okay. So I need to show them that I have experience in that. Means I
I
have
can show
previous
that.
3
We'll
years
do a
of.
side project soon. We'll do a side project soon once we complete Selenium Java automation, right? This 50 days time
Yeah.
plan, whatever we have, right? Okay.
Yeah.
After this 50 days plan, we are going to do complete automation, okay, of an application.
Okay.
So on the weekends and
Okay.
all, we'll do that. Okay, that is planned. Okay, so once you reach that level,
Okay.
you can do that. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. And if I have 3 years of experience in manual, so I can showcase them that I have 3 years experience in automation testing, right?
Total, how many
Or two
experience? How
years,
much experience?
3 years experience.
Total 3 means maybe you can put 1 year of experience into automation and 2 years into manual. That will be okay.
Okay, okay. Likewise, we can divide.
Yeah, it
Okay.
all depends on your confidence levels. Tomorrow, if you feel that you are more confident in automation, you can say that 2 years in automation and 1 year in manual, like that. Okay. Or
Okay.
sometime you can say that I have both have the manual and automation. I have worked on so and so projects and automation. You can say that. You don't have to explicitly mention that 1 year, 2 year, like that. Okay. All the 3 years, right? You have some automation experience. You can generally say.
Okay, okay, Arun. Yeah,
At some
yeah.
point of
Thank you
time, you
so much.
can. It's better to say generic way, like you have the automation experience. Okay.
Yeah, okay.
That is a good thing.
Like,
3 years, total 3 years experience. I have also have the automation experience. If they specially ask you like in how many months of experience you have in automation, in which projects you have worked, then in that case, you can answer that question for them. Okay. Like I have worked on so and so project. According to your confidence level, you can say that so and so project I have worked on that. That project lasted for 1 year. So in that 1 year, I worked on the automation. You can say that. Okay, like that. Okay, better.
Oh, okay. And means all the things we are covering that in a framework part is going on in batch 1, and API also we are covering, Arun, here.
Yeah, not now, but once the framework part is over and once we go to the next levels, right, the API part will start for sure. On
Okay,
the weekends
means
only
that
we'll
is
start.
needed. Yeah, that is needed for the interview, high priority, or means without that we
API
can't
is
give
nowadays
interview.
needed. API is nowadays needed. Okay, at least API manual is required. API automation is also nowadays required to some extent.
Okay. Yeah, Arun. Okay.
Got it,
Thank
huh?
you so much.
Yeah, welcome.
Yes.
Yeah, any other questions, guys? Okay. Okay, guys, that's all for today. So if any other questions or something, we can see tomorrow. Bye, everyone. See you.